There is a bag here with a whole lot of things in it. I wonder what these are. Or better yet, what are they for? Good morning, everybody. It's Stephen here for the Idiot Quilter, and welcome to my weekly vlog. It is vlog number 427 for October the 20th, 2025. Only about, let's see, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. 5 more sleeps to the retreat. Yeah. Still a couple of spots left on that. So if you have been sitting on the fence, and you've heard me say this many times, get off the fence, sign up. Okay, let's move into what I've been working on today. Actually, before I do that, I'm a little flustered because my technology this morning decided to not work properly. My internet wasn't connecting right. My Ring doorbells weren't connecting right. Nothing was connecting right. Even my Echo was not connecting right. And
I'm not quite sure how to help you with that.
she's always listening. She's working now. So I had to reset my modem and do some other stuff. I still haven't got my Ring doorbells working properly. I don't know what the story is with that. Those Ring doorbells, their systems, I don't know. But we've got them all over the place, so I guess we're stuck with them. Anyways, I am digressing. Let's take a look at what I've been working on this week. So the first thing up, as soon as I find the button, is this, my Quilt of Valor. It is all completely done. It is quilted. It is bound. It is ready to donate, which is going to happen in a couple of weeks' time when we go to the Quilts of Valor Sew Day. But tomorrow on Idiot Quilter, I'll give you a more close-up view of the quilting on this, and I'm very pleased with the way that it turned out. And Lucy was very cooperative, and I'm hoping that later today she will be very cooperative as well, because I have a table runner to quilt as well. And that table runner is the table runner that goes with these placemats. This is the gift, Christmas gift for my hairdresser. And as you know, she wanted it in sages and aubergine and a little flecks of gold and things like that. Well, these turned out very nice, I think, and I think she's going to love them, and they go very nicely with the table runner. And once I have the table runner all done, in terms of it's quilted and bound in that, I'm going to put it and the placemats and the matching napkins all together so you can see what the final set looks like. Now, these are a little darker than what's showing up on the camera, and I got to check the settings on my phone for the camera part because they had a major upgrade recently and things have been a little screwy. This often happens with major upgrades to things. There might be a setting I don't have quite right because these are actually a little darker in color than what you're seeing here. But those are the projects that I have been working on. And as I said, later today, I'm hoping to get the table runner done. And I've been working on my tote bags as well. And I've got 10 and a half of those done. It's a long process. And I have nothing to show you with Stormy Sea. You can see it over there behind my shoulder that way. I did nothing on it last week. Not a thing. Too busy doing these table runner and everything like that. So I got to get back into the groove on that one as well. Okay, so I was just mentioning about the Ring doorbell and the problem it's been giving me this morning. Hopefully that's just temporary, and I'm pretty sure it is. It takes a little bit of time when you reset the modem to wake up. But anyways, I did discover a video. There's lots of these actually out there where people have put together compilations of things that have been seen on Ring or similar doorbells. And this is called the best doorbell videos ever, and it's just there so we can laugh at other people's misery. This week's YouTube clip is hilarious at the expense of other people's misery. This is called the best doorbell videos ever, and everybody's got a Ring doorbell or something like it these days, and we capture all kinds of things on that. Now, they're great for security, of course, but who would have thought they're great for comedy routines as well. And that's exactly what this video shows you, called the best doorbell videos ever, because these are hilarious. Now, we're laughing at other people's expense here as well. So there's something a little bit negative about that. But if you need a good laugh and you don't want to have to think about anything too much, then check out this video, the best doorbell videos ever. So the link for that is in the show notes. There's also a link for Sewing with Stephen on Wednesdays, as always. Everyone is welcome to that. And let's see, there's lots of links down there. You should check them out. Some free patterns. They're my patterns that you might want if you're a quilter. And links to my videos in the past week. So yeah, lots there. Lots of goodies. So check that out. Okay, so speaking of ring cameras and whatnot, so what I usually do is on this segment, when I'm showing you what the weather looks like, I do it through my ring camera. I just capture the image and put it up. Well, this morning it's going to be a little different, so you're going to get a slightly different shot because I went outside to take it. And here's what I'm talking about. So when I took this picture outside, and I can see the garage light looks like it might be on, or is that my outdoor light? That's probably my outdoor light. But this gives you a view of what it looks like this morning, and it's raining. Now, you want to know something? If it's raining when it comes time for me to do my morning walk, well, I won't do it. I'll use any excuse not to exercise. I know I've been a good boy. I don't usually miss my morning walk, but it's pouring out there right now. And yes, I will melt. 'Tis the season. But yeah, actually, this is kind of a good picture, even though it's dark out, because it is about 6:15 in the morning as I record this. So of course, the days are growing shorter all the time, and we haven't done the time shift yet. That comes in about another week's time, actually. I think November 1st, that night, I think we do a time shift. God, November coming up. Yeah. You can see our flowers. Now, these flowers bloomed. Walter did look them up. At first, we thought they looked, when they were closed up, almost like birds of paradise, but I don't think we can grow birds of paradise in our zone here. But anyways, he figured them out, but they did open up, so that's kind of nice. I don't know if that's normal for them to open up at this time of the year or not, but anyways, there they are. And the leaves are still on the tree for the most part, but they're coming down. So, what is today's weather forecast? Well, right now, currently it is 11 degrees where I live. That's 11 degrees Celsius, so that's double it and add 30, so that's 22, about 52 degrees, roughly, in Fahrenheit. And as I said, it was raining, but it looks like the rain is going to stop. Let's see here. Okay, I got to pick this up. Put my coffee down, pick this up. And yeah, it's not supposed to rain all day, according to this. So yeah, it may stop by the time I'm finished recording this and get myself ready to go outside. But it does show that it's going to be windy as well today. So that's going to blow some leaves off the trees. And our high is only going to be about 14 degrees, which isn't bad. 14, well, that's, let's see, 28, it's about 58, somewhere between about 56 and 60. So that's not cold. Yesterday, we got up to as much as 21 degrees, which is definitely summer weather here. So yeah, now tomorrow we've got an 85% chance of rain. Today is 85% chance of rain. Well, it's happening right now. Tuesday, 60% chance. Wednesday, 70% chance. And then cloudy up until Sunday. And then Sunday, 55% chance of rain. Okay. And yeah, there's a lot of rain in the forecast over the next few days. And, well, I think we actually do need it. So, yeah, we could have used it in the summer. We didn't get it then, did we? But anyways, that's what's happening on the weather front here. Let me switch over. So, what's that take me to? Oh, yeah, what's pissing me off? Okay, just looking at my notes here, trying to keep myself straight this morning. Yeah, We talked yesterday about the Young Offenders Act and how inadequate it is right now in curbing, for lack of a better word, crime amongst our young people here in my area, in my province, in my country. I know a lot of people think that Canada is a very peaceful country, but we're not. We have our problems too, just like every country in the world. And it seems that lately, youth crime, and when I say youth crime, I'm talking about kids from the age of 10 to 17, is becoming much more violent. I mean, recently here in my own city, there was a report of a gang of kids, age range 10 to I think 14 was the oldest, or something like that. Maybe it was only 12. And I think a 10-year-old had a gun. And they attacked and robbed a guy on a bicycle. And they had a gun. Okay, that's just so wrong on so many levels. Where did they get the gun? What were they thinking? Well, yeah, they were thinking they were going to scare the shit out of this guy and, shake him down for whatever he may have had. I mean, small potatoes, but really, if that gun had gone off. Now, they did get those kids, but you want to know something? They are not going to be penalized. Not at least like an adult would, rented lips, because they're protected by the Young Offenders Act. And we went all through that yesterday on Stephen and Walter Live. But what's really got me upset about this, I don't think we as a society are really doing enough or taking youth crime seriously enough. Kids today are entitled. I'm sorry, but they are. I mean, I could sound like an old man. What do you mean sound like an old man? You are an old man. I could sound like an old man and go, in my day, we had this, we had that, all that kind of stuff. Well, every generation says that. But it seems at this point in time, it's a lot worse than it was. Now, we did look at stats and things like that, and actually the stats showed that youth crime had gone down slightly. But it depends on who's reporting that, and it depends on how they're creating the statistics. Because, statistics lie. They do. People use them all the time as being fact, but they don't. It depends on who's interpreting them and what they're looking at to create those statistics. So really, statistics tell you nothing. And I think we just need to go with our gut reaction. We see this in the news. We see it in the media. Yes, we know the media spins everything. It exaggerates. But nevertheless, if they must feel that it's an important enough issue to report on it in one way or another. So we have to take that into consideration. But what I'm seeing is a lack of parenting. And you've heard me say this many times before, and it's one of my pet peeves. It's more than a pet peeve. I think this generation of parents is doing a piss poor job of bringing up their children because they're not bringing up their children. They're leaving the bringing up of their children to institutions and to other community things out there, people, not them. And their excuse is this: I don't have time. In order to feed and clothe my children and shelter them and all of that kind of good stuff, I need to work. And both parents have to work. And both parents have to have a car. And both parents have to have a big house. And both parents have to go out for dinner on a regular basis because they're too tired to cook for the kids when they get home from work. And all of this. And they need to put their kids in every activity there is, which all cost money. And they have to make sure that their children are clothed in whatever style is there so the other kids won't bully them and make fun of them. And they have to make sure that their kids have a cell phone and have an iPad and have a good computer, because they need that for their homework and their studies and their leisure time. And they need to be taken to exotic places because, that's part of their overall education and make them well-rounded citizens. I don't believe any of that works. No. Well, if they've got a gun and they're attacking or arresting people for kicks, because let's face it, that's what they're doing it for. These are entitled kids. Their parents give them everything, and yet they're still resorting to crime for kicks because they know They can always play really stupid. I'm just a child. I don't know what I'm doing. They know what they're doing. Believe me, they do. I taught for 32 years. I know what kids are like and what they know, and they are not that innocent and naive. Now, that's not to say that all kids are evil, because they're not. There's lots of good kids out there. In fact, more than you would believe, according to the media, because the media paints them all as little devil spawn. But the ones that are devil spawn are real devil spawn. And again, I blame it on their home life. You know, no child ever said, okay, I want to be born now. None of us ever had that ability to say that. But as adults, we do have the ability to make a decision as to whether or not we're going to bring little ones into the world. And let's face it, Planned Parenthood is just an expression. What is Planned Parenthood? And I think if people were genuinely honest, in many cases, it was an oops. They didn't expect to get pregnant. And I always say, make the comment, shouldn't have had that second bottle of wine. Yeah. But whether or not you intended to have those children, you had them. They're yours. They're your responsibility. They're nobody else's responsibility. So don't put your responsibility as a parent on somebody else. You have to do the job, and it's a hard job. Yes, I am not a parent, but I certainly realize that it is a very difficult job. However, I am not a parent by choice. You don't have to have children. You don't. There is nothing in the law that says you have to have children. There is nothing. It's your decision whether you want children or not. So if you make the decision, however it comes about, to have children, you also have to accept the consequences. And the consequences are you have little human beings that you have to raise as good citizens, as good, moral, outstanding citizens. That is your job as a parent. And giving kids everything they've ever wanted, because you probably feel guilty because you're away from them a lot, that's not bringing them up. What's that teaching them? That's teaching them entitlement. That whatever I want, I'll get. Mommy will buy it for me. Daddy will buy it for me. And with that kind of attitude, kids don't have a sense of responsibility or a sense of caring about the other people in their lives and around them in their community. And so they're very easily led by other forces in the universe into not such societally acceptable situations. So, Young Offenders Act doesn't do anything, really. It's supposed to punish them. But should these children be punished for something that really, maybe it's not their fault? Not what I said yesterday. I believe it's their parents' fault. Now, there's this term that I hate, and it's an old term, and everybody uses this. It takes a village to raise a child. It does not take a village. That's a cop-out, in my opinion. That's saying everybody is responsible for children. No, we are not. You, as a parent, are responsible for your children. Nobody else is. I mean, along the way, society does give you some resources and some help with your children, but ultimately, the bottom line is you, as a parent, are responsible for your children. You want an example of what I mean by that? Parents who are absentee most of the time and make excuses like, oh, well, we do quality time. Yeah, that's another expression that I think is stupid. You go, if you see a kid in public running around making a nuisance of themselves, if they're bugging you, and you say something to them like, stop that, the parent will be on your throat if they're there, so quick. You can't say that to my child. They are my child. They're not, it's not your right to discipline my children. Okay, then I guess you don't subscribe to that it takes a village to raise a child. Then you should be doing a better job. So that's what pisses me off. I think right from the day they're born, if children have good parental care, there is less likely that they are going to fall into the way of, or fall into a criminal way of life. I mean, after all, and I've said this many times before, children are not born evil. They are a blank slate. Their habits, their behavior, they learn at home. Because who is their first teacher? Their parents, of course. So I know there are people out there that would argue with me about this whole thing, that would make excuses for uh, bad parenting and all this kind of stuff and blame it on anything but the source. And the source is bad parenting. And I stand by that because I saw many examples of it and the results of bad parenting when I was a teacher. I also saw many examples of good parenting, and those kids did really well in school and went on to have very successful lives. Yeah, as a parent, it's your responsibility. Okay, moving on, shall we? That was the rant for the day. What am I moving on to next? Page 2. Let's see. Yeah, let's talk about what's happening in the grow light situation. Well, okay, we've done a little cleanup, and when I say we, I mean Walter. So here's our latest crop of lettuce coming along very nicely. I think he's got something planted in those other two dirt piles that are off to the side. I don't know what he's got in there, but I should ask him. And this one, I think he's got stuff planted in here. I didn't check today. See, I took this picture yesterday or 2 days ago, so there may be some little shoots or things popping up in there, and I'm not sure what those little shoots might be. It's a mystery. And here's our jungle. These are our tomato plants. I think they're tomato plants, yeah, and there's some peppers still. I thought he was going to put some peppers out there as well. Ooh, he's got something in a jar with water. That looks like basil. I'll have to ask him what he's doing there. Looks like he might be trying to root it. Interesting. I don't know, he's always doing fun things. Yeah, these are tomatoes because these are the flowers. So these are flowering, so that's good. This might be a good crop this winter. And that's a really dark green pepper. It almost looks black back there. That plant is not a new plant. I think that's one of the ones that were left over after he did the cleaning out. So I think his plan is to put more peppers in here as well. Start them in the, that's probably what he's got started in the other grow lights. So, yep, the winter crop is coming along. Okay. So that takes me to new products. Well, we bought some more Ring doorbells. I should have called this whole episode the Ring-a-Ding episode because I've been talking a lot about Ring doorbells these days. So, how did this work out? Well, they came out with a new Ring doorbell and they had Prime Days on Amazon, and the new Ring doorbell from what we had on our front door has a wider view. More of a fish lens sort of effect. And Walter thought that might be good to have, especially when it was on, I think, 50% off, but I'm not sure. Because then when we have a package come to the door, they often set it up against the door or in a corner, and we can't see it with the Ring camera that we had on there, that we have been using. And this one gives us a wider scope, and we can see that. So he installed that. So here we have an extra Ring camera. Well, he decided to replace the backyard Ring camera with the old front door Ring camera. This gets confusing. There will be a diagram, not, um, out there. So that's what he did. There's also the way that you have to charge them or not charge them, the batteries and things like that. And then at that point, when he's explaining this all to me, I just heard blah, 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 ring, blah, 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 ring. So we had two extra cameras now that we could place as we moved all these around because he bought a second ring camera. Yeah, that's right. That's how that worked. Yeah, this gets confusing. Like I said, you need a diagram. Anyways, let's just save you the logistics of all of this and tell you that we now have a ring camera installed in our patio area, which is underneath our deck. So we can see if any of the chipmunks are coming in and trying to destroy our chair cushions. Well, they're not going to get at them because I put all the chair cushions for the season away and cleaned up under there. We didn't really sit out under there much this year for some reason. Anyways, then he had one more camera where to put it. So he put it inside the garage. So we can watch when someone breaks into our garage and steals his car. Or when the chipmunks get in there. Yeah. So we're a household of cameras. And just to extend it, not just ring cameras we have, this room has 4 cameras in it. And you probably realize that when I'm doing a sew day or something, because I can switch cameras around to various areas in here. There's also a camera in our rec room. There's also a camera in our family room. There is a camera in our dining room, living room. There's cameras in every room of these houses except the bedroom and the bathrooms. Yeah. Now you're going to say, isn't that a bit obsessive? Yes, it is. Yep. I make no bones about it. That many ring cameras, that many different cameras in a house is obsessive. Why do we have so many? Well, it started once upon a time with another system of cameras when we had Kitty, when Cleo was with us. Because when we went away on a trip, we want to be able to check in on her. Now, she was well looked after. You've heard me talk about that. But nevertheless, we wanted to, pop into wherever we were in the world and check our camera and see where Cleo was. Because we missed the baby. Yeah, well, that led into having more than one camera because Cleo was clever. She was a little camera shy. She knew exactly where to sit, where she would just be out of the range of the camera. Cats are clever. Yeah. But anyways, that started something, and yeah, we have all these cameras. So I guess the ironic point is if somebody was to rob us, yeah, sure, the camera would detect it, but by the time anybody got there to do anything about it, they'd probably be long gone. So yeah, I don't know. We're camera happy. So sue us. Okay, enough about that. So let's move on to, can I print this 3D effing thing? Well, my sister is a cross stitcher. That doesn't mean she's angry all the time. Little joke there, very little. She saw, or a friend of hers who also cross stitched showed her this picture of a little holder thing that holds your flosses that you're using at the time and some of your essential tools, I guess. And the idea is wherever you're doing your cross stitching, you have this close to you and everything's handily organized, that kind of thing. She wanted to know, it was a 3D printed object. She wanted to know if I could print it. Well, I looked at it and went, sure. And in fact, which was even better, she had the actual URL for where it came from, and it came from MakerWorld, and MakerWorld is the site I go to all the time for my 3D prints. So yeah, I made her. Now, she wanted one. I got carried away. They're so pretty. Yeah, I made her 4. Now, 2 of them are the same size, the green one and the orangey colored one. That was the design she showed me. But then they had another design that was, they called it the extra large one. So the purpley colored one, I made her that one. And then the one in front of that, the smaller one, is the cut down version. It just has 4 slots for floss. So I couldn't stop once I got started. So I sent her pictures of them and I said, okay, so I made these for you. And she says, well, I only need one. And I says, too bad you're getting four. So she has all four. I mean, she can give one to a friend if she wants to, or do whatever. I don't care. You know me, I just love making these things. Of course, when I showed her the picture, she wrote back to me, saying that, yeah, great. But she also said, oh, Tyler, uh, who is my nephew's girlfriend and also works with special needs children, she loves the 3D printed things that I make because I often will make something and we're going over there for dinner and give to the kids or whatever. They're not kids, they're adults, but that kind of thing. Um, and she takes them into school with her and uses them with these kids. And these kids, these special needs kids, really love them. And I said to my sister, well, if she wants more, just have her make me a list of what ones she would think would be appropriate, and I'll make happy to make them. My sister says, well, why don't you just surprise her? Okay, she'll be surprised all right, because I got a big bag out and I went through my stockpile of these things and I filled the bloody bag. She's got enough to give to 90 kids, I think. So, yeah, I think she will be surprised, maybe a little overwhelmed with that, but that's great, um, because it gives me some space. I cleaned out a few things. I mean, I'm not going to sit around and play with them. I make them to see if I can make them and how they'll turn out. And then, that's nice. And I throw it in a box. So, yeah, I was happy to do that. So, yeah, these turned out really nice. And that's great. So, I have bought or ordered a new little toy for my 3D printers. I ordered another AMS. What's an AMS, you're going to say? Well, this is a thing that holds four different colors of thread spools, of filament spools, not thread. And it's an automatic, it's called, AMS stands for Automatic Materials System. And it's the thing that, automatically changes colors when colors need to be changed. Well, it only holds four spools of filament, but you can daisy chain more of these devices. So I ordered another one and I'm going to daisy chain it with one of my other AMSs on one of my X1C printers, and that printer will now be capable of 8 colors. Now you're going to say, well, why do you need something like that? Well, first of all, it's not need, it's want. And second of all, I need it because I have some of those very elaborate prints, the ones that take quite a few days to make, that I put together that are of the various houses, like Dracula's Castle was the latest one. Those have multiple colors in them, and if you can handle more than 4 colors, it makes your life so much easier. So that's my excuse for buying one. They're not cheap little things. It was about $489 or $498 for it, but they charged me shipping because usually Bamboo Labs, that's where it comes from, don't charge you shipping on filament if it's over $65 worth. But on printers and AMSs, you get charged shipping, and probably because they're a bigger item. So they charged me another $45 for shipping, and then there's tax. So the total is about $600. Yeah, for this thing. And I've got it planned out. Walter says, well, where are you going to put it? I'm very tight for space down here. I said, I will figure it out. And I have it all figured out. So when will I get it? I don't know. Maybe this week. We'll see. And once I do and get it all set up, I'll show you how that works. Yeah, I don't use my Creality printers anymore. I have 4 of them. They're decent printers, but I love my Bamboos, and I have 3 of those. So yeah, I'm trying to decide what I'm going to do with these other Creality ones. I would give them away if I could find a good home for them. But on the other hand, I keep thinking I should be utilizing them, but I'm not sure how, because they're single color machines. And yeah, there's lots of things I can make that are single color, but do I want to? Don't know. Anyways, the dilemma of a 3D printer, right? Okay, so we're talking about technology, and we're talking about phones, or were, or have, or we are now. Last week, I showed you a clip from an old video, one of our early ones from Stephen and Walter Live, and it was about cell phone that we had stolen. Well, this is part 2 of that. The conclusion, you might say. After I made my notes, and I said to her, okay, Stacy, oh yes, and that night, just before, that was the Wednesday night. Wednesday night, Walter checked Kijiji, which is an online selling thing, and found that someone was listing without a picture an iPhone 6, 128 gigabyte for sale. And they had their postal code in there, and we could see on the map what area they were in. They were in the town next door to us.
Coincidentally, it was listed on the Tuesday night.
Yeah.
So
and no picture of it. So I said to Walter, well, why don't you answer back like you're interested in it and ask some questions and see. He didn't really want to do that, but he did do it, but he never got an answer back. I mean, circumstantial coincidence.
Well, that's not true. I did get an answer back the day after.
But then that
turned out that wasn't the person.
No. So anyways, I want to know more about this guy that she'd hired. So I asked her, so Stacy, I said, I'm going to ask you some questions about your help. And, if you feel that you shouldn't answer those or whatever, you don't have to. But I said, this thing's bothering me. So I asked her how this guy came into her employment. Well, it turns out that he's a friend of her son. She has a son that's in his early 20s. And this is a friend of his or something. And that's how she knew him, and he works for her occasionally. Asked her what his name was, because the guy in the ad, his name was Wayne. Not he could be using a fake name. But the kid's name was Andy. And I asked where he lived. Did he live in our town, or did he live in the town next door? Where? Well, apparently he lives not that far probably from us. He lives up in our same area. So this other guy that was selling the phone was in Whitby. Maybe, again, it could have been fake. But it just didn't seem the same. So then I said to her, okay, so this has really been bothering us. We're going away, blah, blah. What about your keys? What do you do with your keys? Are they someplace that this guy can get? She says, my keys are always with me, she says, and I do not let anybody touch them. I said, what about the security code? She says, I do not share that with anyone. The security code is the houses, no matter what. And I says, well, I wrote you that note about us going away and whatnot, so I'm sure this guy probably knows about that, and told her my concern. So I said to her, okay, so we've got two options. Option one is we're going to change the lock on the door. We're going to change the security code. The next time you come to clean, we'll meet up with you. You bring us the key to the old lock. We'll give you a key for the new lock. We'll give you the new security code with the absolute assurance that you don't share any of this with anybody. And she's professional, and she knows. And I said, the other thing is, that guy, we do not want him back here. In fact, we don't want anybody here except you. Unless you feel you need the help, then we want to meet the person, we want to interview the person, we want a police check done within less than a year old, and we want a copy of that police check. And also, I would like some proof that you are bonded. I know 15 years ago when we hired you, you said you were bonded, but I'd like some proof of that. I said, if you think this is too much, then the other option is this. I'm afraid we're going to have to terminate your service. I don't want to. You've been great. 15 years, never had a problem, nothing, but I don't know what else to do. And I said to her, you don't have to give me an answer right now. You can think about this. And she says, this has really been bothering me though too. She says, I haven't been able to sleep and the whole bit. And she says, I am going to go to his parents. He lives with his parents. And I'm going to talk to them and talk to him about this. And I'll get back to you.
Plus, you also told her that about the IME code.
Oh, yeah.
And that I was going to go to the police and report it stolen. So now, if I was going to go to the police and get it report it stolen, I would probably have to give them who I suspect stole it. So I would have probably given them that information.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, go for it.
So, anyways, she phoned me back up. Well, I said to her, well, you can confront him, but he's just going to lie to your face. I said, I taught kids in high school that did things a lot less than that were wrong, who would, or worse actually than that, and they stone-faced lie to you. You could catch them red-handed in it, and they'd say, that wasn't me, I didn't do that. So I said, human instinct is to deny something that they have done. That's bad. That's, a bad thing. But anyways, she called me back about a half an hour later, and she goes, yep, went over to his parents' place, talked to his parents. He confessed he's got them. I went, you're kidding. I didn't figure that. And he says he knows he did an arsehole move, is what she said, and he's bringing them back. And I said, okay. And she said, are you, like, he can bring them back probably around 5 o'clock. And this is 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I said, sure, great. But I said, I want to talk to him when he comes here too. And, I said, I'm not going to press charges with him. I suspect there's a reason for what he has done. But I said, I'm going to go into teacher mode with him. And I said, I've dealt with young people for many, many years, so I kind of know how to do this kind of thing. She said, do you want me there with you? And I said, actually, no, because I want him to understand the impact it's had on us and on you as his employer as well. And I said, if you're here, that might not have the same effect. I said, so anyways. So she said, okay, I'll tell him, and he'll be over around a little after 5. She phoned up 15 minutes later and said he wants to come earlier if you're available. And I said, he can come anytime. So half an hour later, he shows up. And he's extremely apologetic. Now, you'd have to get a visual of this kid. He's tall, he's skinny, you can spit through him. Smells like smoke. Okay, so he's a smoker. Not probably the brightest tool or the sharpest tool in the shed, you know what I mean? But definitely he looked scared, he was extremely apologetic, and he seemed remorseful and the whole bit. So anyways, I wanted to know more. So I said, have you got a few minutes so we can talk? He says, oh yeah. So he comes in, sits down, and I said, why? Why did you do this? He says, I know it was an arsehole move, and it was an impulse. He said he's in trouble. This is the problem. He's in trouble because he used to have a drug problem. And I guess he owed some people, his dealers, a lot of money. He didn't say how much. And they're after him, and he's trying to pay them off. His parents have been helping him, but I got the distinct feeling he hasn't told his parents the full story either. But at least they haven't kicked him out into the streets. I asked him how old he is. He's 26 years old. Said to him, well, when I was 26 years old, I did a lot of stupid things too. I didn't steal anybody's property, but I didn't do drugs. But, when you're 26 years old, your mind isn't yet fully developed and kind of a thing. And, so he said, I said, so why would you want the phones? You obviously didn't try to sell them. Of course, it was pretty quick. He said, well, you could get some money if you had a program that would strip all the programs off the phones.
So in other words, get your personal information.
Yeah, he said, first thing he said, it wouldn't get any of your personal information, but no, it would, if it's going to strip the whole thing. And I guess this guy pays him something for it. This is how desperate.
Sounds to me like he didn't have much experience doing that. That it was something that somebody had put into his head, and this may be a first or time that he tried it or whatever.
Well, he said he has never stolen anything before. I asked him, I said, have you ever been in trouble with the law? He said, no. And I guess I told him, we're not going to press charges. You did an asshole thing, but I said, you owed up to it. So it says you have some integrity. You seem genuinely remorseful about what you did, so you've got a conscience as well. I said, I really feel for you that you're going through this really hard time in your life. I said, if you've got those other things, honesty, integrity, and remorse, I said, let those be your strengths, and those will get you through the bad times. He says, can I do some kind of volunteer work for you or something like that to make up for it and stuff? I said, well, we're basically not a charity. So I said, and he said this several times, and I said, no, that's okay. Obviously, he's not working for a cleaning lady anymore. Walter says, though, because Walter can find out anything about anybody, keep that in mind, people, he can. Okay.
I snooped on the internet, and well, it wasn't hard to do.
Found out lots of interesting things, actually.
Yeah, I found out that his parents were decent people, and I found out that that hold a good job and stuff, and I found out that he also lists on his Facebook page that he's got, he works as a cashier at a donut chain here.
Yeah, Tim Hortons. So basically, yeah, I don't know if Stacy had said to him she didn't know whether or not we'd be filing charges. So that may have really put the scare into him as well, because he'd lose his job if we reported this to the cops.
And obviously, the poor kid needs some money. I really feel bad for him. I really do. I wish there was something I could do for him, but I have no idea how much money he owes and everything. And I just hope that he gets himself out of this hole, because next thing he'll be on the street. He'll be back. He hasn't done drugs. He said he's free of that and everything, so he claims. I don't know how long he's been drug free or whatever, but I don't know. I just feel sorry for him. But anyways, we got the phones back and all's fine, and didn't have to get rid of my cleaning lady. I really didn't want to get rid of her because I don't think I'd be getting anybody else. That's for sure, and it means I'd have to do it myself. And I hate housework. I hate a dirty house, so I'll do it. But
And our house isn't that dirty, so she has an easy job. So.
well, yeah, I know, because we clean up for the cleaning lady. So that was our big mystery of the week and the thing, and just it really wrecked the week. It really did. But at least we know one thing: we don't have Alzheimer's. That's a good thing. It actually was stolen. So
it takes me to events in the past week. Well, in my neighborhood, they're all getting warmed up for Halloween. As you can see, I showed you a picture last week of a big skeleton. Well, here's a ghosty thing that they have all lit up. And a lot of places are putting up little lights up in the eaves of their houses. Now, Costco, I'm sure Costco sold a lot of these. These are LED lights that look like they're fairly easy to install, and they run from an app on your phone, and you can change colors and you can make them do things. And we have a very many of the people that live in my area are from Indian descent, and it's Diwali, and that's the Festival of Lights. So a lot of them have been putting those up. In fact, to the point where, and I think they look really cool, I said to Walter, maybe we should consider going over to Costco and getting a set of those ourselves, because they're fun. But not only that, I'm thinking, well, we can leave them up all year round. You can change them for colors of the season. They make great Christmas decorations on the house. So Walter doesn't have to climb up on the ladder and start hanging them, and he always picks the coldest day of the year to hang Christmas decorations. And we can control the color, and it might be fun. And everybody else in the neighborhood has them too. So, I'm suffering from FOMO. So I don't know. We might be doing that. We'll just see how that all works out. So Halloween is on the way. 2 more weeks. And, well, less than 2 weeks. And, yeah, we don't decorate the outside of our house for Halloween. Well, I put out a fake pumpkin, but, that kind of thing. It's inside that I decorate. Okay, so that brings me to the end of this episode. A little longer than usual because I rambled. So I hope you had a cup of coffee and we're doing some sewing or doing something. And I was keeping you amused in the background. But the retreat is coming up on Saturday. There are still a couple of spots left. So I did extend the due date for registering to this Wednesday. So that's Wednesday, October the 22nd. Yeah. So if you want to have a spot for the retreat, then I think I can accommodate you. Reminder to those of you that have already registered that today, Monday, October the 20th, midnight, wherever midnight occurs in your time zone, is the deadline if you want me to include a picture of one of your creations in the show and share slideshow for that. And we are at about 84 registered people for the retreat. That's pretty good. But as I said, there's always room for a few more. So yeah, it's going to be a busy weekend next weekend. We have the icebreaker cocktail party on the Friday night, and then of course the retreat on Saturday. Those of you that are registered this Wednesday, I will be sending you out a very special email that will have the agenda for the day, and it will also have what's really important, the Zoom links for both the cocktail party and for the retreat. So watch for that email. And yeah, that's about it for me. So I hope you have a great week, and many of you I'll probably see this coming weekend for the retreat. Have a good one. Bye for now.